wealth to me really means just having control over my time and spending time with people I care about. I thought I was going to be traveling all over the world, right? Like you and I both traveled a lot. We both worked on cruise ships. And for a long time, I felt like I should be traveling because that's what people that are successful creators do. They're like cool and they travel. And like that is some kind of
I kept my laptop on the beach.
Success. Yeah, like I have my laptop. I'm like poolside with my laptop. And now that I'm here, I don't really want to do any of that. Like I like traveling, sure. But like what I really want to do is nap. I want to I actually did something really right by accident when I started my business. And so if you are a content creator and you're trying to think of how to like create an offer or monetize it, this will be helpful. So
hello again, amazing human being. Thank you as always for being here for another episode of the Be You Get Paid podcast. Or if this is your first episode, welcome. Great to have you here. I hope you find value in what you're about to hear and potentially in some other episodes if my dulcet tones are bearable and you enjoy what you hear. That is all I'm here for, is to help one person at a time get to know themselves better, get to know money better, and hopefully be inspired to take control of their lives by creating a new one, if that makes any sense. If it doesn't, head over to my website or check out the show notes in the description of this podcast and you'll hopefully have a better idea of what I'm trying to achieve with this one. But without further ado, episode 20 is bringing you the lovely Tess Waresmith. Now, Tess is many things, including being a former competitive diver, not the scuba type with the tanks on your back, the type that likes to throw themselves off of boards at great heights over a swimming pool, that kind of diver. She's also been an Olympic-style weightlifter. She doesn't do anything half-assed, as I'd like to say. And our paths first crossed in 2012, just over 11 years ago, working together on a cruise ship that was ironically named Freedom. And after transforming her financial landscape, Tess went from a loss of $80,000 to a $1 million net worth by the age of 35. And she recently quit her corporate job to focus full-time on helping women in their 30s and 40s do the same, to take control of their finances via simple and efficient, we like efficient, work smart, not hard, diversified investing strategies. Her signature coaching program, Money Confident, empowers women to ditch financial, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Financial anxiety and set themselves up to retire comfortably. Now, there is a moral of the story of this episode, and that is that if these two slightly questionable individuals, that's myself and Tess, can go from what you see on my Instagram feed, and I do share my screen in the podcast, but if you're not watching this on YouTube and you're listening, head over to my Instagram at Amy Taylor Says, look up the episode with Tess's face on it, and swipe through the bio slides that I've got there, and you'll see what I mean. Because if these two slightly questionable individuals can go from that to designing their own versions of freedom by building wealth through online business and investing, then I honestly believe that anyone can. Side note, if you are doing Christmas this year on the high seas, remember safety first. You are welcome. Again, just head over to Instagram if that doesn't make sense. Hopefully it will soon. But without further ado, here is myself interviewing the very lovely Tess Waresmith. Tess Waresmith, welcome to the Be You Get Paid podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. Sorry, I had to interrupt you already. I'm so excited to be here.
That's all right. Finally, we make this happen. It's been just over a year since we tried the first time, and due to various events in both our lives and just time and, craziness, here we are. Now, can I share my screen? Because I have to, this is just the easiest way to, here we go. I don't know if I can do this on video. And if you're listening, and I haven't edited this out because I've been lazy, just go to my Instagram and swipe through the episode with Tess's face on it, because, where is it? Window. Here we go. There she is. This is how we met. Is it up yet?
I know what's
is it
about
showing
to happen.
it?
No, it's not.
Oh, come on, screen loading. Gotta love this technology for anyone who actually does want to start something online. Doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. Here we go. There she is. It's one of my favorite photos of all time. Now, if you have been on a cruise or plan to go on a cruise at any point, please don't let this put you off. I'm pretty sure the rules have become a lot more strict about how the crew conduct themselves. But Tess and I met on, I don't know, I think it was Freedom. What, doesn't matter. We shouldn't really probably name the company, but we met. It was Freedom. And you were a shopping guide. Is that right? Were you doing shopping guide?
Yes. I was guiding people to buy diamonds.
Money.
To spend money. It's like the exact opposite of what I do now as a financial coach. Now I help people learn how to grow their money and spend money responsibly. Back then, I was trying to convince people to buy diamonds on their cruise vacation as the ultimate cruise memento, which now in hindsight makes me want to vomit a little bit. But it was a good job. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about sales. I learned that I don't like diamonds. And learned a lot.
Oh, I love this. This is so great. And this is why I'm not preparing for episodes. I mean, you're a friend, so it's a bit easier. But I am going to leave that there for a bit. And I was working as an assistant the assistant to the cruise director, which is basically the PA to the entertainment division. And we didn't share an office, but you'd be in and out for various reasons. And we kind of just hit it off. But prior to that role, you were throwing yourself off diving boards, also on cruise ships, which to me is just mental. Like, why would you do that on a moving vessel? But you did, because you're a legend. Like, tell us about that, Tess.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I was just talking about that with my boyfriend yesterday, because I back then had been doing springboard and platform diving. That was my main sport. I did that growing up. I did it through university and never thought I would make any money doing it. And then the cruise ship needed divers. And at that time in the States, we were going through a massive recession because of the subprime mortgage crisis. This is like 2008. So after getting
I'm just
going
to
to
stop sharing my screen because it's a bit, it's a bit distracting. You're now talking about serious life story stuff. So I'll stop sharing. After uni.
After working so hard for my degree, I couldn't find a job. So I ended up as basically a circus performer on cruise ships. And that was my first real job. So that was the job I did.
Literally join the circus.
Literally join the circus. And then I tried to leave cruise ships and ended up hawking diamonds to people on and off the cruise ship. And those were my first two jobs as an adult. So weird start.
Yeah. So hopefully there's not a huge amount of people that relate to that story because they've had real jobs. But I still think we probably both learned a hell of a lot from that. Like you essentially got paid to travel, which for the most part was great. I now shudder at the fact that we got paid in cash, like payday this is relevant to what we're going to be talking about with you. But I think about it now particularly as a Bitcoiner and knowing what cash means, which is not a lot. You know, you got paid on payday by standing in a queue and everybody just got handed an envelope full of cash, which makes me think a couple of things. It's like, are they dodgy? Or is it just because the US dollar was this internationally recognized currency that everybody wanted no matter where we went, which is true. And travel definitely woke me up to that and became a more relevant lesson the more I learned about Bitcoin.
You know what's funny? I forgot about that until you just brought it up. And now I'm remembering that I went home one time and I told my stepdad about this. And he was a sharp guy. He was like a college professor, economics. And I told him about that. And he was like, hold on, you get paid in envelopes of cash? And I was like, yeah. He's like, how much money laundering do you think they're doing on the cruise ship? And I hadn't even dawned on me. It was my first job out of college. So I was like, oh, maybe this is how people get paid sometimes. I totally forgot about that. You were so freaking dodgy.
I know. But the other thing and this is not to be morbid and not to put ideas in people's head because there's, bad people are probably in a lot of ways much slyer and smarter than me. It makes it a huge target. Like, I don't want to think about that. But when you think about some of the horrible things in the world, like it's just like, oh God. So it was a fun time, but it's in the past. And that was I left the ships in 2013, 10 years ago. That was pretty much the same 6-month period that I left ships. I had a very disastrous season working on super yachts as a sort of was nowhere near as much fun. And then I got started online, which I did for 18 months around my job. So you, at that point, 2013, where were you? Where have we been since?
So, yeah, I left Chips just before you. I think I left in 2012.
Okay.
Or maybe around the same time. And then I ended up working for a marketing agency, or sorry, an event company that did color runs. That was a big thing 10 years ago.
Yes.
5K
Yeah.
runs where they threw color at you and charged you an exorbitant amount of money to do a 5K. Yeah, so I did marketing for a company, an event company that put on color runs and mud runs and those themed kind of 5Ks. That was a big thing for a while. And around that time, I started investing in real estate as well. So me and my boyfriend at the time, Phil, I think you know, I think you might have known Phil
did.
Gephardt.
Oh, yes. I do remember Phil, the sports guy. Who was the sports guy?
The sports guy, yeah. So I actually, I'm very grateful to him because we flew down to Florida. We were living in Utah and we flew down to Florida and just bought properties. He had already invested in real estate and I bought a single family house in Tampa. And that was my first, major real estate investment that I made. And I made all the mistakes and I learned a ton from that. But I'm really grateful for that because that's kind of what got me into understanding how to invest in the stock market, realizing that I was losing a lot of money by giving my money to somebody else and having them manage it for me, a financial advisor, a fiduciary, which is in the US, a legal, a person that is legally obligated to act in your best interest. And so I'm very grateful to Phil, the sports guy, because if he hadn't have gotten me into real estate, I wouldn't have had a bigger interest in investing and managing my own money. And I wouldn't have realized that I was losing a lot of money by hiring a professional to do it for me, just in the exorbitant amount of fees I was paying. So that was kind of actually the origin story of my investing starts there.
Yeah. Okay. That's would have been my next question is where did it all start? Because so fast forward to what you're doing now, what's your elevator pitch or your sort of summary of what you do right now? And congratulations on recently leaving your job. Very big milestone. It's amazing. I've spoken to 3 or 4 people recently and they've just recently left. So it's really cool.
Yeah.
So but you, just to put that into perspective, because a lot of people that intentionally start something with the desire to get out of their job, I've never had the impression that you hated your job or you had this 9 to 5 that you couldn't stand. Like, you've always spoken quite highly of it. And I regularly see you on social media saying to people, like, if you don't hate your job, it's the best thing you can have is that stability and just be consistent with investing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. First of all, I'm very excited to have the opportunity to run my own business, but you're absolutely right. I'm very wary of any narrative that's super polarizing or says, this is the right way. Entrepreneurship or an online business is the right way. Working for a company is the right way. I actually really liked the company I worked for and I learned a lot, and I was lucky enough to work with great people. And I will say that I took a pretty big pay cut when I originally started working for the last marketing agency I worked for, because they were good humans and because there was opportunity for me to grow. And that was a really smart choice at the time. So I'm one of the lucky people that actually really liked my corporate job. And I had just started a couple years ago as a grief project after my stepdad died. I started a financial education business really just by posting content online. I wasn't planning to turn it into a business, but it was a topic I was passionate about after having that negative experience with a financial advisor and feeling pretty passionate about the fact that I wanted as many people as possible, especially women, to understand the basics of investing and to advocate for themselves and to make sure they were getting paid fairly. And so that turned into a financial education business. So now I help mostly women in their 30s and 40s learn how to grow their money using super simple investing strategies anyone can do, even if you're totally new to stock market investing, even if you are super short on time. And what I love about what I do is that it's not actually that hard. Personal finance and financial literacy is something that is desperately needed, and more digestible information is desperately needed. And so when I realized that it's not as hard as we've all been led to believe, because there's just so much jargon out there, I felt morally obligated to start sharing that information. So to bring this full circle, yeah, I didn't hate my job. And I don't think if you like your job, I don't think that's a terrible way to make money. And it can be an excellent way to make money, put money away for retirement, to eventually get more time freedom in your life. I just happened to start this business that I'm pretty passionate about. And then it sort of was a natural conclusion of my job. And so I've now pivoted and I'm doing this full time. But I definitely don't think there's one right way to do it. What I will say is that I strongly believe that if you are interested in doing something, you should start it while you're still working. Like, I'm not bought into the just like quit your job and start a business. Yeah. And I say that a lot. I had a lot of people tell me that when I was first starting my business, and, you know, a year in or so, when I started to get some traction, people would be like, you should quit your job and work on your business. And one of the smartest things I did was not that, because one, it gave me more flexibility and freedom to learn and create my business on my own pace. It also forced me to be really efficient with my time because I was working full time. So I didn't have that much time to mess around.
Yep.
And, you know, I left at a time when I was in a great financial place and a natural exit, and it just felt right. So yeah, even though I just left my job and I'm very excited to be working for myself and it feels great, I'm not necessarily an advocate of the whole just like uproot your life and start a business if you're, you know, not in a mental or financial place to do so.
I've met a lot of people that would agree with you in hindsight, and it's tough when you learn the hard way. But again, I think if you fundamentally believe that is your path, sometimes you need to do that to realize how to do it right. Excuse me, no matter what way you do it, it's not going to be linear. So whilst we're still on that topic, then how long have you been out of the job? When did you leave?
So it's been about 2 months at the time of this recording. So end of September is when I left.
Okay. And what are the biggest shifts that you may be having to adjust to that you weren't expecting, maybe? Now, are you someone who has swallowed the orange pill and going big on Bitcoin? If you are considering putting an amount of money into this world-changing asset and are feeling like you won't sleep at night without a little one-on-one guidance, you are in the right place. Look no further than the incredible team of amazing humans at the Bitcoin Advisor, who I've had the pleasure of meeting in person a few times now. Entrusted with managing over $1 billion, that's a B, not an M, $1 billion in assets they've been responsible for. The team at the Bitcoin Advisor have been serving clients since 2016 with buying, securing, very, very important. If you don't know what that means, you definitely need their help. Buying, securing, and or managing your Bitcoin on a bigger scale, particularly if you have family who don't know what to do in the event that you very sadly get hit by a bus. You need these guys' help, trust me. I will admit, understanding Bitcoin from scratch is not easy. It is overwhelming, and you'll be shortcutting hours of reading and learning and podcasts and articles and all the things if you try and do all this yourself, especially if you try and do it in a hurry when the price starts taking off and the FOMO kicks in. I keep saying that because it's true. You're human. It will. So book in a chat with these guys before that happens. Tell Peter and Andy that I sent you, and they will take extra special care of you. So just head over to bugetpaid.com/BTC advice. That's bugetpaid.com BTC ADVICE. bugetpaid.com/BTC advice. Hope that makes sense. This will be in the show notes.
Yeah, it's a good question. So one thing I'll say is I'm still doing some consulting for the company I worked for. So I haven't totally separated from them. And so I am still juggling a little bit as far as context switching between my business and working for this marketing agency. Mm-hmm. But what I'll say is that I had been there for so long that whether I realized it or not, I think a big part of my identity and my purpose was wrapped up in that job. And I didn't really realize how much until I left, and also how good it was for me to leave. Even though it was a good company, even though I was pretty comfortable, when I left, I actually sort of fired myself And the way this happened was I was asked to restructure a portion of the company. I kind of was looking at my department and these other departments, realized my department didn't make any sense anymore, and sort of redistributed my own department and pitched it to the CEO and said, I think you should restructure the business. And he said, well,
what did he say?
He was like, well, first he was like, that makes a lot of sense. And I said, yeah. And he was like, wait, what about your job? And I said, I don't think it exists in this more efficient structure. And so we went back and forth for a while. He offered me some other opportunities and I thought about it and they were good, but it just wasn't the right thing for me anymore. It was too comfortable. I was going to end up doing the same thing that I had done before and owning pieces of the business that I had owned in the past. And when I left, I thought I would be more sad and more emotional about it because I was so used to being there and I had worked with these people I was there for almost 8 years. It was a long time. And I feel so validated that it was the right decision because I would be totally complacent, totally comfortable doing the same old shit and not feeling like I was growing, which is super important to me.
Yeah.
And I realized how much energy I was putting towards that business that I can now redirect to my own projects and my own life and different types of relationships. So I gave a lot more to that company than just 9 to 5. And I realize that now. And I don't know if that's necessarily avoidable if you work for a company for a really long time. You just get wrapped just like anything else. If you spend a lot of time in something with people, you kind of just get wrapped up into that world. And so I would say that as wonderful as that company was and as grateful as I am for that experience, I'm very glad I left because it has created space for a lot of new ideas and people and growth that I wasn't expecting that in quite such a drastic way.
What an awesome answer. And this is what I'm trying to get across to people with creators, of which you are. Doesn't matter how you go about it, but you've monetized something to the point that it has replaced your income or will do. You have the faith in it because you're in a position to do so. But there is, especially from younger crowds, and that's fine. That's a different crowd. I'm trying to talk to people in the 30s and 40s bracket. And I just think there's so much fear around giving up the paycheck, but that's it. That's really, if you really drill down, and I do this with coaching all the time with people, is like, what are you most afraid of? And it's the money. It's the running out of money. It's the not being able to replace it, even though they could probably get another job, so long as you don't subscribe to the narratives out there that, there's no jobs. There's jobs. You just need to be willing to take them. But also just that there's a healthy way of doing it. But the complacency thing is huge. I was exactly the same. And I don't think you realize, you're huge on fitness. You're super fit. You were doing weightlifting competitively, weren't you? Or bodybuilding competitively?
Yeah,
what was
for
it?
a while.
Yeah.
Olympic style weightlifting, yeah.
Yeah, so super fit and healthy. And I was healthy enough. I gymmed and stuff. But when I left my job, it was August 2015, with the intention of going redirect all that energy immediately. I was exhausted and I took about 3 months off, and I was just going over an old YouTube channel the other day and looking at myself going, you look wrecked. And I didn't feel awful. I was the same. I love the people I work with. I work for a really good company. It was a company I would always be able to go back to or get jobs in other places if I needed it. Thankfully, I haven't needed to, touch wood. But it shocks me sometimes to think, like, even it's that comfort, right? Other things were suffering that I was so unaware of. And it just dampens down. You just become the cog in the wheel. And if it's not toxic enough, there's not enough motivation to get out of it. But if it's not good enough, but it pays the bills, it's exactly that. It's that comfort and complacency that you don't grow from. And I speak to so many people in that place.
Yeah, I think you hit on something really important, is that I have mixed. There are some environments that are just straight up toxic, that are just bad, right? And then there's other environments that can become toxic depending on where you are in your life and the relationship that you have with your business or with your job or whatever it is. Just because you're not dealing with negative people or mean people or whatever it is, or toxic people, doesn't mean that the situation itself is not toxic for you. And those are
so
different things, right? And so I think people will say, you know, oh, this is a great company, but if you've, for example, outgrown the company or learned all you can, or there's not a seat that's a good spot for you, but you're so ingrained in the culture that you don't leave. And I know people like this in good companies that are just kind of stuck there. That's a toxic situation for you, even if it's not necessarily a toxic culture holistically, like that. It's just like any relationship, right? Like two good people can be in a toxic relationship, right? So
that's a can of worms we won't open right now.
But yeah, so I think that is so important. And when you do start to be energized by something else in your life, that's when you really need to listen. And if you're wrapped up in an environment and it's so much of who you are and an extension of you, then you miss those signals. And that's what I get afraid of when people get stuck.
And that can be, I think for a lot of people it's work, because it's where people spend the most time. But you're right, it can be the relationship you're in, and therefore work is the escape. So now you're ignoring two things that are toxic in your life. You're ignoring the toxic relationship you're in, but you're also using work as an escape from that, and not realizing that perhaps work is also a toxic situation for you, even if it's not a toxic environment, right? And this is where I think a lot of people get to. It's not until every area of their life has got to a 1 out of 10 where they go, shit, I need to do something. Or their health will suffer then. Well, that feels to me like the final straw. I'm like one thing or more. It's either one thing gets really, really bad that it's life-threatening, or relationship, it's divorce-threatening, or something so awful is looming. And if none of that happens, it kind of all just slowly comes down until someone wakes up one day and goes, life's not worth living. And men especially, I've spoken to a lot recently where that's a very sad reality. So I think that self-awareness piece is key. Are there any lessons, it just occurred to me as we were saying it before, about your health interests and your competitive weightlifting, all that stuff? What kind of mindset lessons would you say are really important that you see or that you apply yourself across how you approach your health and how you approach your business? Because that's usually a really enlightening one for people.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately because I used to be a competitive athlete, and when I stopped, you know, I was a diver, and then I was a circus performer, and then I competed at a national level in Olympic weightlifting. And when I stopped all that a few years ago, I had a hard time adjusting and feeling like I was doing enough. And I have very candidly open about the fact that I had eating disorders, and, you know, it was very hard for me to go from like elite athlete doing all the things to just like a normal person. And what I realized through that is you can work out a couple times a week and be in great shape, and you can grow a business without working 80 hours a week as long as you are consistent. And it's the same with growing your money. And so for me, it sounds cliche, but the words I always come back to is consistently. Like if you do something consistently over a long period of time, you're going to get better at it. You're going to grow it. You're going to be more fit, whatever it is that you're chasing. And I've met a lot of people in business that I'm honestly a little surprised at how, you know, successful they were, given maybe the fact that they didn't have background in the thing that they were doing, or they didn't have business savvy or experience. They just kept going. Like they didn't have any secret, massive, like, you know, skill. They weren't amazing orators or marketing experts. They're just people that decided they wanted to do a thing, and then they kept working at it for a long time. Like, that's it. So I don't know. I think we always overcomplicate, like, starting a business. You know, how fast you get to where you want to go will kind of depend on your past. A lot of people think that I'm a good public speaker, or I'm comfortable speaking on stages. I've done conferences, I've done a lot of podcasts, and that's not from my business. That's from years of presenting and attending other conferences and hosting workshops and all this stuff in my other job. That's a skill I already had. So I think we see people be really successful in business really quickly, and we're like, oh, we're like behind or whatever. Those people probably had experience doing pieces of what they're doing now in some other capacity or realm. So in all things, I really believe that if you really want something bad enough, and if the dream is in you, it's for you, and you just have to keep moving towards it in whatever way you can. And sometimes that's going to be stopping and taking a fucking nap, but like if you're clear on what you want and you take steps towards it, you'll end up somewhere in the vicinity of where you want to go. Maybe not all the way to where you wanted to be, but you'll end up in some decent vicinity. And it's the same with investing. It's the same with fitness, anything like that. Just being consistent and continuing to drive forward, and knowing that, I think, another thing I'll say from fitness is people always go, oh, like, I'm not as motivated as you. I wish I was as motivated to go to the gym. And I'm like, I am not motivated. This is habit. This is discipline. Like, this is just me wanting to stay in shape. But like, a lot of times I wake up and I'm like, that doesn't sound like a good time, but I go anyway because I have the end goal of being healthy. So I think having a clear goal, knowing where you want to go, and at the end of the day, just being as consistent as you can. It sounds super cliche, but I think it's that simple. It's not easy, but simple.
Oh, it's not easy, but it's simple is everything I'm always telling people too. Like there's an overload of information on how you can get to whatever goal you have, whether it's fitness and social media is a blessing and a curse in that respect, because there's just so much noise. Who do you trust? If you are going to pay someone to help you get there quicker, which is essentially all coaching, consulting, or courses online from other people are. And I just have a very strong belief that this self-education is growing and growing, and people are starting to see that. It's like, you've got no official financial qualifications because that's not what you're doing. You've got the autonomy to do it your way. And that is the beauty of the internet, is that you absolutely can. But you nailed it. You've got to stop and think for yourself. Like, what do I want? Okay, there's all these people out there offering to help me, but are they offering to help me get to where I want to go, or how they've done it? Because I've spent thousands of dollars even just in the last year on courses for myself and mentorship, and I've got more value on some occasion from a free YouTube video or a $50 course than I have from paying someone $8,000 who was a lot younger than me, but they had a system that I thought would work for me. And within days, I was going through this content like it was so poorly delivered because they were giving it all this on the front end. I'm trying to think why I've gone on this tangent, but I think I do know why. Because I wasn't thinking, well, hang on a minute, is this person... I was so overwhelmed with information, and this is 10 years in, right, into being in the online space. I was so overwhelmed with the information that they were throwing at the system being but the outcome wasn't what I wanted for me. I was like 15 years older than this guy. He's traveling the world and living in South America somewhere and has no responsibilities. And I don't know why I let that in, because I was, and I've had to really let go of the guilt around that. Anyway, my point in saying it is that there's plenty of people out there, but are they living the way you want to live? And the reason I wanted to bring that up, I've just remembered now, is that you regularly post things like wealth to you is going hiking on a Tuesday. Or so what, do you remember a point where you kind of, a switch went off and you may have started buying real estate? And I think you said your stepdad was quite a big influence. Do you remember a point where you kind of woke up one day and went, wealth means this, and what my version of that is and what my guiding North Star is before the business? Like, what does wealth mean to you? So what does it even mean to be you and get paid? Well, in short, it's embracing the opportunity available online to earn a living around your life, and not the other way around. I'll give you a moment to let that sink in. Ready? In other words, to build your own dreams instead of someone else's. And for me, it took the sudden and unexpected loss of a very close family member back in 2013 before I took that kind of cliche statement seriously. It was a line in the sand moment where I decided I was going to do whatever I had to do to build something of my own, to find freedom from the unfulfilling world of commuting and corporate slavery for good. And that decision put me on a completely different life path. And I can tell you from experience that it is even simpler to do today than it has ever been before. So if you've been inspired by anything you've heard on this podcast, nothing is stopping you from doing the same. when you learn to turn your existing skills, knowledge, passions, and interests into income streams online. And if you don't believe me, check out the episode number 18 with my long-term friend and mentor, Stuart Ross. And we're not talking about some half-assed part-time side hustle here, my friend. I am talking about drastically changing the way you think about and earn money in today's modern world. So sign up for Modern Wealthy, our 7-day fast start training series, which includes a downloadable ebook and your best life blueprint. And I will be there to cheer you on with monthly coaching calls and give you a bit of a kick up the bum. So head over to bugetpaid.com/launch. That's bugetpaid.com/launch.
Yeah, so I would say that I've lived my life in sort of like 3 financial phases. The first one was fear. I grew up with a fear of money. My mother always said we didn't have enough money. And so my first interest in investing was making sure I didn't end up like my parents. Like my biological dad has no money. She married my stepdad, who turned out to be a good guy, but truly it was, to help support her because she had kids, So I grew up very afraid of not having enough money and knowing that I couldn't trust anyone to help me financially. So that was like the first phase. And then the second phase, once I started to have money, because I had this fear and I was, hoarding all the money and not, often not enjoying my life because I was so afraid of having enough money. The second one was realizing that there was a path for me 5 to 10 years down the road that gave me flexibility, not necessarily like complete financial independence or the FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, where you work your ass off and you save every penny and you retire in your, 40s, and not necessarily that, just that there was this opportunity for me to have more flexibility in my life. And so now I've reached that point. So now I'm like kind of on to phase 3 here. And what I'm realizing now is wealth to me really means just having control over my time and spending time with people I care about. I thought I was going to be traveling all over the world, right? Like you and I both traveled a lot. We both worked on cruise ships. And for a long time, I felt like I should be traveling because that's what people that are successful creators do. They're like cool and they travel. And like that is some kind of
I kept my laptop on the beach.
Success. Yeah, like I have my laptop. I'm like poolside with my laptop, or like in this like really cool cafe or whatever, overlooking a rice field in Bali, like whatever it is, right? And so I sort of felt like that's what I like. That should be my North Star. Like I like travel. I want to have my own business and have flexibility. That's what I'm going to do. And now that I'm here, I don't really want to do any of that. Like I like traveling, sure, but like what I really want to do is nap. I want to like nap because I'm still like recovering from corporate. So I want to sleep more.
Yeah.
I would like to spend as much time in the mountains hiking and climbing as possible. And I want to volunteer. I just started volunteering for this great organization called Elevate
awesome.
Youth. And they work with under-resourced kids in inner city Boston and take them on like rock climbing trips and hiking trips and, foster a sense of leadership through the outdoors. I'm like, that's awesome. I want to spend more time doing that. My rich life isn't like Lamborghinis and cars and like, sure, would I like, a couple houses in a couple cool places? Yeah. And I will have that because I'm doing well because I, invest and pay attention to my money. But it looks way different than I thought. And that is one of the most dangerous things about social media these days is I think on one hand, you have an incredible opportunity to learn and follow inspiring people. And if you use it that way, it can be life-changing. But I've talked to so many people that have said, oh, well, this person has, this car, or this house, or this kitchen or whatever. They're all in debt. They're not free. They don't have flexibility to quit their jobs. So, I live in a multifamily house. I drive a Subaru. I'm wearing pajama pants right now. Like, I don't look wealthy, but I'm a millionaire. I'm like, no one would look at me like, oh, like that girl like has like, no way. But I would rather have the assets and the freedom and the flexibility. Like, that's wealth. And then what that looks like is going to change. Like if I ever have kids, like I want to be able to spend time with them, you know? So wealth changed a lot for me. Like I thought it was this glamorous travel life. And now I'm just like so grateful. Like I wake up every day and I'm like, I can't believe I have the option not to work a 9 to 5. Like I can't believe I have space to do this business with little concern. Like I just feel so lucky. And I wouldn't say I have enough money to like live off and retire for the rest of my life. Like,
yeah,
I'd have to live a pretty small life, but still,
I agree.
like,
And that's
just
the difference between wealth and, sorry, I've cut you off, but that there is it's not that I'm not either. I'm still building and growing things, and you know, it's a slow burn. It's like the whole get rich slow or get wealthy. I can't even bear the word rich anymore because there's associations that people have, and this is what I mean about the kind of guilt and shame I had around investing in education from this particular guy who was so much younger. And it's not because he was younger that I shouldn't have done it, because there's plenty of young people. I've just done a podcast with Luke Mikic this morning, who's a guy in the Bitcoin space, and he's phenomenal. But I'd lost myself along the way. Like I kind of do know what I want, but what's the quick hack that's going to get me there? And that's just psychology that doesn't matter where you are, we're still human and can fall for. And you talk about The Psychology of Money a lot. That great book. So I guess we're kind of at the halfway point in the conversation where I would say, okay, so since we've talked about the mindset of leaving your job, how has the business kind of evolved? So you started off just posting content. It was Instagram, I think, is where you're most active, isn't it?
Yeah.
How did it grow and evolve into was it consulting, courses? Like, how did you first start to monetize you?
Yeah. So I like sharing this story because I actually did something really right by accident when I started my business. And so if you are a content creator and you're trying to think of how to like create an offer or monetize it, this will be helpful. So I got advice from somebody when I was first starting to say, I want to put together some kind of educational program that's the basics of what you need to know to invest in the stock market with confidence. You don't, not like the expert day trading stuff, like basic stock market investing that's super simple that anyone can do, that's often more effective than day trading. This doesn't take a lot of time. It takes, a couple weeks of intentional effort and you can learn a lot. And so what I did was, after I had started posting I don't know if I started posting content before or after I started. Maybe it was about the same time. But what I did was I sent out an email to close friends, some colleagues, people in my network. And I said, I have gone through some shit when it comes to investing. I was really screwed over by a financial advisor. I've learned a lot, and I'd love to share more about what I learned because this information is so important and it's life-changing. Like learning how to invest on your own, you can save so much money, especially in the States where the financial advisor fees can often be outrageous. Like you can save hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime learning how to invest on your own. Like this is not small money. This is really important stuff that we should learn in school, but we don't. That's another topic. So I sent out this email and I said, I'm going to do one lesson a week for 4 weeks and teach you how to open up your own retirement account so you can save on taxes, and then simple ways to invest so that you can retire comfortably someday. That's what I'm going to do. And I was really candid. I said, I don't have like here's like a rough outline, but we'll kind of see where the conversation goes. But my goal is by the end of it, you know how to do this thing. And so I was like, it'll be $100. And like 12 people signed up, which I was shocked, by the way, because I didn't really pitch, but what I offered was valuable information. It was super cheap. And I kind of brought them along the journey with me. So I also said, if you don't learn and this sucks, like I'll give you your money back, because my success is your success. Like this is not worth it to me if you're not learning. So this whole thing is very mission driven, and it started that way. So I ended up doing that, and it was awesome because I learned what I was like changing slides while I was talking, like as people were asking me questions, like I'd put together a rough outline of what I wanted to talk about. And then, as we went through, I recorded them all, and it was great. And everyone had a great time, learned a lot. And from that, I got a lot of great things. I got a video course that I ended up, my first product was those recordings that I put online, and I sold them because they were good. It was good content. I didn't sell it for a lot because it wasn't like super cleaned up, but I was like, if you want to learn this thing, these videos will do that for you. And that was my first product, which was awesome because I didn't belabor perfect presentations. I just kind of threw it up there, and that was a great way to get started. It gave me great testimonials, and it helped me learn what my audience really needed, because what I outlined is not exactly what they needed once I went through the program. So that was how I started my business, and it was probably the smartest thing I did because it got me a product quickly to start generating money, which was not a lot of money, but like even when you're generating a little bit of money in the beginning, it's very encouraging. And then it also gave me so much information, and it gave me some like fans of my business that had been part of the creation, and it was the beginning of my community. And so that was one of the smarter things I did. So that was the original thing, was that 4-week group. And then I did an online course for a while. And now actually I've kind of reverted back. And because finance is such an emotional and psychological topic, and so many people feel stupid that they don't know enough or feel behind, and again, we don't get the education we need to be successful in this area. So now I do small group coaching that accompanies the online program that I have, and that has been re-recorded. It's not the original live recordings now. But it's not that much different. It's better, it's higher quality, but the goal is the same. And I'm better at making sure that everyone walks away with exactly what transformation they needed, which is really to be confident and owning your own money and growing your money through super simple investing. And that's what I promise. And that's what people get. So.
And it is called?
Oh, sorry. So it's called Money Confidence. So on Instagram, I'm Wealth with Tess. That's my Instagram handle and the name of my business. But this specific program is called Money Confident. And I love that name. I almost changed it. That was like the original first one I came up with. And
no, it's perfect.
I'm so glad I didn't, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it is. And that's, I wasn't saying, oh, go. I'm glad you're plugging it. But it was more the fact that everything you were saying, my next question was going to be, so what were the kind of outcomes from that first group? And since that, it's great that they're getting the outcome you promise, but outside of that, what are the kind of things that people say to you that you're like, this is the meaning of life, this is what I'm meant to do, because you clearly are loving it.
Yeah, totally. So I love that you bring that up, because one thing that I tell people when they're asking about the program, I say, look, like, you're going to learn this skill, you're going to learn how to grow your money, and you're going to have more control over your money and be in the driver's seat to make sure that you can retire comfortably, chase whatever dream is in you, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But learning how to manage your money, which is a tool, a resource to give you freedom, flexibility, options, impact, influence, all that stuff, right? That is one of the most empowering things you can do. Like, talk about self-care. Like, learning how to manage your money, which is your tool and your ticket to designing a life you love, that is worth so much more than just the information itself. And so since then, I have people message me and say, hey, I just want you to know that my ex left on short notice and it sucked, but I wasn't stressed about my money, and I've paid off all my credit card debt, and now I've invested like $100,000. And I'm just like so grateful to know that like I can do this on my own. Like, that's some powerful shit. Like, so like I hear people say that, or like people will say, I thought I was bad at money this whole time, and I thought I was stupid. And now through this experience, I've learned that I'm not stupid. I was just lacking some knowledge. And now that I have that knowledge, I can go and do this thing and grow my money. And that's a lesson that you can apply to so many other things in life. So it's not just, being able to invest. It's the confidence to learn about a topic that is scary and overwhelming and confusing, and conquer it, and then be like, wow, I have some options. Like, if I stay on track, I can design a totally different life. And I'm very honest about the fact that you don't take this course and like by the end you're a millionaire. That's not how this works. You have to invest consistently over, 3, 5, 10 years of intentional effort. But from the time I decided that I wanted true financial flexibility to walk away from my job, and the time I became a millionaire was 10 years. That's not that long, right? Like, it feels long, but it's not that long. And I made a whole bunch of mistakes in the beginning. Like if you actually get an education, and instead of doing it the way I did, which is like losing a lot of money through doing the wrong things, like find somebody that's already made those mistakes like me, and I can help you avoid them. You can do it faster. So, you know, I like the idea of a few intentional years that can really change everything versus, you know,
I love that.
Get rich quick stuff that doesn't make sense. But truly it is the overall feeling of power and confidence that I love giving women, and that's what I love the most about what I do.
And I'll come back to a lot of what you've said, but I'm glad you finished on that and circled back to it, because the example for it that you gave of my ex just left at short notice and I'm not worried about money and I'm not stressed about money. Can we also, and I've been the new partner of someone whose ex was left in that position because zero empowerment around money. So what happens then? Oh, well, now we'll just go to court and rip each other off.
Oof.
You know, which I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not, and they have a child. So I'm not saying that when your ex or your partner leaves and you're left in a situation, especially if you have a child, that you should get nothing, but the system ain't going to do it fairly. So, and not only that, more importantly, what I'm really getting at is the level of stress and anger and all the emotions that come up. Like money is an amplifier of the best and worst in human beings, right? So my ex left, it was stressful, therefore it got toxic. Why? Money. However, your lady, my ex left, I wasn't stressed. How much easier is that breakup going to be? It's important.
Yeah. It's
right.
It's so important. And I tell people this all the time because, you know, as a financial coach in my small group coaching program, I do end up working with people in transition, people getting divorced, separated, leaving their job. And I'm really happy to serve that community. But what I would love to see more of is before you get to that point, taking control of your money, making sure that you're not handing it over to somebody else, whether that's an advisor or partner or whatever. And even if your partner's awesome, you don't know. Like, you just don't know what could happen. Like, something could happen to them. They could have a medical emergency, whatever it is. And so what I try to share, the message I try to share as much as possible is you don't want to wait until shit hits the fan. That is the worst time to learn about your money. You can do it, and it's better than not learning at all and just throwing your hands in the air and saying, I don't know how to do this. But if you can do that now, when those moments happen, you can properly grieve that relationship or that situation, and you can be present in your emotion and manage you and not have to deal with this massive external stressor, which is your money. Like, I want people, like, you're going to go through hard stuff in life. Like, it's going to happen. So prepare now so that you don't have to also layer on more complexity when you don't have your financial life together.
Oh my God. Amen to all of that. It's exactly the same reason I say to people, like, tap into your creativity whilst, like you were saying, whilst you can do it from a place of exploration and joy, and make money from it by all means. But it's just so much healthier. And that's what that, going back to what we said before, the comfort and the complacency of having no real reason to. The back against the wall situation, you see it I see it all the time, and it's just not nice. And it doesn't work for people in the business space or trying to start something. That is, other human beings can pick up on it. If you then start going out there producing content from this place, it's just so obvious. Or at least, even if people can't describe what they're feeling, I've watched videos where I'm like, I don't believe this for a minute. Like, this person doesn't seem secure in what they're offering. And the other thing as well that you were mentioning about just doing it consistently over 5 to 10 years with what you teach with investing, it's not active. Like, we have the technology now. One of my mentors, Stuart, that I did an episode with a couple of episodes ago, like he was saying, you know, eToro or these other platforms now that you can just put the whole thing on autopilot. Once you understand it, you're done. Like, stick the whole thing on autopilot, which is very similar to what I tell people about Bitcoin, which we'll get to in a sec, just before we wrap up. But, you know, that it's so easy now. I mean, there'll be specific platforms that you recommend, I guess, that make it easy. Just learn the basics. And then it's something that you can put on autopilot for 10 years. It's not like starting a business. Investing is different. It's a habit, like you said before. So just quickly on that, talking about things that you recommend, would you say primarily what you're teaching is suited to people based in the USA, or is it relevant to global?
Yeah. So
some of it might be, some of it might not.
Yeah, so the investing strategy itself that I teach is like you just said, it's autopilot, it's buy and hold.
Yeah.
Depending on the country, there's different options, but the idea is to invest in funds that hold a lot of different stocks at once so that you're, not day trading, you're not buying one company and betting all your money and on one thing, you're putting your eggs in different baskets. And so that can be done through consistent investing, figuring out how much money you can invest per month, investing in funds that have a bunch of different stocks. So you're, spreading your risk across a bunch of different industries. And there's super easy ways to do that, regardless of what country you're in. That is the most important concept itself. And that is literally something you can learn how to do in like a matter of weeks. That does not take a lot of time. The only difference, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of like how to approach your money is from a tax perspective and a retirement perspective, what accounts are available to you. So investing universal, like invest in, different funds that hold US international stocks, different types of industries. And that's easy to do. There's funds that have all these things in one fund. Like you can buy one fund and be invested in everything you need to be invested in the stock market. There's easy ways to do that. You can do that in any country. But what's different is the accounts, and that really is important because especially in the US, that's how you save on taxes. And I don't actually know much about Australia, but I know that in the Canada and the Commonwealth countries have better options than the US.
Yeah, and it's and it's like anything. If you're going to go buy your program or a course, or it's I've bought 100. You take what you need from each person you learn from. The fact is, Tess knows her shit and has done it and has the result. So listen, even if you're not in the US, like, and whilst we're on that, and then we'll get onto Bitcoin because I know we've got to stop at the hour. You have a free guide, like tell people where to go to find you that is best.
Yes.
And I'll make sure this goes out to my email list as well. Just to start connecting with you.
Absolutely. So the best thing that will be applicable to everyone except for one small section is a Savvy Investor Starter Pack. And that you can get at moneyconfidentcoach.com/savvy. We'll share the link as well. And that guide has some really valuable stuff, including questions about your money mindset, how to start to unpack what might be holding you back from making money. It has an entire video on the 8 most common investing mistakes I see people make all the time, and that is global. So if you do anything else, download the Savvy Investor Starter Pack and watch that video, because I made all those mistakes and it cost me thousands of dollars, and I would like for that not to happen to you. So in that guide, you'll see all kinds of stuff. There is one page about retirement accounts that is US specific, but the rest of it will be valuable. So that's the best place to kind of get started if you want next steps and want to connect with me.
Great. We're not done, because if I told you my position on Bitcoin, you'd probably think I was crazy, but let's start that conversation. Because when we first tried to organize this chat, I said, are you a Bitcoiner? And you said yes. And I think you were buying a little bit with, is it Fidelity?
I have Coinbase.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I have, which is like, I know it's like not a cool Bitcoin place, I think.
I'm not going to give you advice on either, but we'll keep going.
Yeah, no, I have Ethereum. I have a few other like altcoins. I was investing like a small amount consistently for a while, and I would say that if you have my position on it is I think it's very important to diversify. So I definitely think it's worth diversifying. It's just far more volatile than investing in a diversified portfolio in the stock market. So you just need to understand that the money you're allocating towards that is going to be all over the place, and probably not money you want to rely on for, say, a down payment next year or something like that.
Absolutely.
So that's how I feel about Bitcoin. I think it's a fascinating topic. I am invested in some Bitcoin, but it's a much smaller percentage of my overall portfolio, because that's a long-term hold for me. I'm not using that money anytime soon. So I do think it's highly valuable to get educated in it. I don't know as much as I would like to, but I do think it's incredibly valuable. And I think the technology itself is super interesting. So that's kind of where I'm at with Bitcoin.
Okay, no, that's cool. I just wanted to touch on that first before we go down that rabbit hole just quickly. But did you buy some through Fidelity? Because since we had that conversation, I've learned that Fidelity in the States anyway are probably one of the more trustworthy, reliable sources because of their history and just the people behind it.
Yeah.
They're pretty solid. So are you still using them? Because I'm just thinking, if we have this conversation and people are like, oh, I would like to get a little bit, where's the best place to go if I'm in America?
Yeah, so I actually still have my stuff in Coinbase, but Fidelity is a great option.
Okay.
I use Fidelity for my other retirement account, so I'm not invested in Bitcoin in Fidelity, but Fidelity in general is a great financial institution, and a lot of clients I work with open retirement accounts. And actually, they're talking about, I don't know if this has happened yet, but they're talking about being able to use retirement accounts like 401ks and using those to invest in some Bitcoin options. It's not widely available. A lot of companies haven't adopted it yet. But Fidelity is a common provider of 401ks, which is the most common employer-sponsored retirement plan in the US. And so that is something that should be up and coming. So you can keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, the first thing I am going to tell you to do is to get your Bitcoin off of Coinbase, because Coinbase is what's called an exchange. So that's where you can go and buy it.
It's in the wallet. It's in a wallet.
Yeah. Okay. But do you have control of that wallet, or do Coinbase?
See, I don't know. I have a lot.
It doesn't matter. This is good. This is perfect. This is exactly what I want, because we're gonna work through it together.
Yeah, so I'm like downloading the app, the Strike app, because I wanted to download that because you told me that. But I moved it to a wallet, and I'm not totally sure what that means, but I knew that you were supposed to do that.
Perfect. See, this is what more people need to be willing to tell me or investigate. So do you know what the name of that wallet was that you moved it to?
I'm actually like looking on I thought it was like a Coinbase wallet, but it was like separate. It's a different app.
It's on your phone. Fine.
It's not like it's not like the hard
device.
Wallets.
Got it.
Yeah.
I think what you're describing is, so you can go to an exchange, a bit like you would go to a foreign currency exchange and swap your dollars for Bitcoin, or you would used to swap your dollars for euros if you were going traveling. So that's what you do online. And Coinbase is one of those. Not, in my opinion, one of the best, because they sell other things as well. And I've, through the years, become more, I am now Bitcoin only, because it helps me sleep at night, and it enables me to invest in how you've described, which is just consistently on autopilot, sleep at night and focus on business.
Right.
So the first thing I will say is to separate, and maybe some of your audience or members who might be further down the rabbit hole can take some value from this. There's Bitcoin and there's crypto. Bitcoin is money. The rest of crypto is highly volatile, highly speculative tech investment. And it's not to say that it's all terrible. There might well be projects that work out, but the proof of work concept that sits behind Bitcoin makes it a new form of money. So go on.
I wanted to ask you. I always like interchange Bitcoin and crypto, but crypto is like the currency in itself. I'm invested in Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then one other like dodgy altcoin that's not doing, like Polkadot or something. But and I would love to actually understand from you, like, my understanding is that, like, not a great plan, like long-term investing in crypto, like Bitcoin is like your best option, and just like do that. That's what I've heard.
The only.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, because there's two conversations to be had, and you are very much coming from the investment perspective. And by far, if people have no exposure to Bitcoin whatsoever right now, I'd be concerned. And we did have a conversation off camera about how many people might be absorbing too much mainstream media fear and saying, I've got piles of cash under my mattress. In that instance, you want to have Bitcoin for all the same reasons. And if you haven't put at least 10 hours into reading about it and understanding it, that won't make sense. But the minute you do, that alone will make a lot of sense. Like if you are Ukrainian and you need to get out, you can't really take all your cash with you. You can't pick up your house and take it with you. You can pick up your Bitcoin, and it's 12 words in your head. And it's impossible to say that and explain it all in one sentence. But going back to the wallet conversation that you were saying, so you've got a wallet, it's a separate app. What that is probably the likelihood is that is what's called a custodial wallet, which means the balance of your Bitcoin that you can see is accessible by Coinbase, or stuck my hand in front of the camera, a bit like a bank account, right? Like you can see it, but you don't have full control over it. Right. Whereas a non-custodial wallet is only accessible by you from 12 words that becomes your seed phrase or your access key to your balance on the blockchain. So you don't have to record it anywhere if you can remember it in your head. That's obviously risky, but that's the difference between this decentralized technology that is backed by cryptography, is that that's how it's accessed. So even if you want to up sticks and move across borders into different countries, you've not got gold bars, you've not got piles of cash, and it serves that purpose incredibly well. So the difference is the custodial. So that's what I would say to you is get your balance from Coinbase into a wallet that's non-custodial that you access. And there's a couple of options. I don't think Strike is one of them, but that's a different, we'll do something in a sec that's a different reason for having Strike. And the non-custodial wallets, really the best option is cold storage, which is offline. It's a device, right, that you use the device to access your balance. There's a lot of reading. There's plenty of resources that I've been recommending, but people just need to start studying it whilst they're maybe buying a coffee's worth a week on autopilot. Amber is the company that I recommend to do it with. You can now, as of this week, I think, do it with Strike in the States especially. But what's much cooler is, and if you tell me if you need to wrap up, but I'll try and keep this brief just to prove the point. So Bitcoin as money, let's have that conversation. And I don't know how often, or even in your course, if you ever ask the question, what is money? Why do we have money? Why aren't we still bartering? And it's that when you start to understand those criteria, it starts to all make sense. So I'm sure it's something that will be of interest to you and your audience the more you learn about it, but just do it soon because the world's just changing so quickly. And that Armageddon that we were kind of jesting about off camera, you said, what are people going to do? And I think you're absolutely right. It's like if the point comes where you do need the cash under your mattress, we're going to have far bigger problems anyway. So consider Bitcoin to solve that problem if that's a genuine fear for you. You've already told us where people can find you. I highly recommend everybody go and connect with you on Instagram. Any final thoughts you want to leave with people?
Just that knowledge is power, and it's not as hard as you think to learn this stuff. I've learned a lot about investing. There was a while ago when I knew more about Bitcoin. It's been a few years since I've read anything about it, and now I'm going to go do a lot of that after this call. But I think that just knowledge is power, and usually your fear is a lack of knowledge. So if you're anxious about money, it's because you have a knowledge gap somewhere, and learn a little bit, and that fear and anxiety will start to go away.
Apply to anything: health, relationships, money, business, anything. Your fear is a lack of knowledge. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Love it. Can you put that in your tombstone requests with whoever you're
I have
organizing?
What's going on my tombstone is the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. That's
Alex Hormozy? Was it Hormozy that said that recently?
I don't know who that is.
It's been on the internet everywhere recently. It's very good. The magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. Love it. Thank you so much.
So good to see you. Thank you so much for having me.
You too. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Hello, my friend. As someone who is not the best at finishing the things they start, thank you so much for making it to the end of this podcast. I hope you found it helpful. Maybe it piqued your curiosity on something new, or even just made you smile for a few seconds. If any of those things apply here, then all my regular tech challenges and tantrums are well worth it to get this to you. If you heard anything at all that you think could help just even one other human being, there's a couple of things you can do that I would really and truly appreciate. Firstly, you can follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. On most podcast platforms, this is usually just a case of hitting a follow button or a plus sign on the main show page. This means you'll never miss an episode, which is hopefully a win-win for us both. Secondly, if you're feeling really generous, you can leave me a 5-star rating or review wherever you're listening. And lastly, feel free to share an episode with a friend on social media with any thoughts, feedback, suggestions, or even criticism. It's okay, I can take it. Just tag me using the handle @AmyTaylorSays to make sure I see it and can thank you personally. Any or all of these things genuinely mean more human beings see and hear these conversations. So again, thank you for being here and helping me with my mission with Be You Get Paid to help as many people as possible know themselves, know money, and be happy. See you next time.